There. So I just want to do a quick introduction of our presenters today. We will have our section going in just a minute here, to the Catawba Indian Nation, the healing of the clay. And today we have Clarklyn and we have Ashley with us, and I would just like to do a quick introduction before we get started. So Clarklyn has worked with the Catawba Indian Nation since 2020, and started in healthcare while attending Winthrop University for their bachelor's. After a short time after graduating, she moved to the behavioral health department and the prevention staff with Washington State for the Suquamish, sorry, apologies, to be trained with the curriculum called Healing of the Catawba. And then came back to Catawba and started working and incorporating that curriculum that we have today. And Ashley Garris is also a citizen of the Catawba Nation and received her master's of social work in 2021 with a focus on tribal issues. After receiving a bachelor's in psychology. She's worked with tribal nations for 4 years since September and is initially in child care and then moved to preventative services. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them and we can get started.
It said we are from the Catawba Nation. We're both enrolled members with the Catawba Nation, and we are going to be presenting the healing of the clay curriculum that we are implementing at the Catawba Nation. There's no divisions, and I can just turn around my laptop. It's really close.
I'm going to just take 1 second to turn it on. Appreciate everybody's patience.
So we went to Washington in October of last year. And we learned about a curriculum called Healing of the Canoe, which is what the Suquamish use. And they talk about they use a metaphor for life as the canoe journey. And they talk about all the steps that they go through in their canoe journey. And they take each of those steps and they move it to a part of their life. So what we've done is we've taken the clay process, because pottery has sustained Catawba for 6,000 plus years. And what we did was we took the clay process, the pottery process, and done the same thing and connected it to each of our lives. So that's what we'll talk about a little bit later. But
So, bit of information on who we are. We are the Sahara, or the people of the river. If you've not been to the Carolinas, it's right at that border of North Carolina and South Carolina. And if you have, then it's just right south of Charlotte. Our traditional grounds were all the way from North Carolina into South Carolina and into Georgia, because I might be able to speak, because we were a migrant tribe. So we didn't have any formal tribal lands until the reinstation of our tribal status. We are the only federally recognized tribe in South Carolina, which is pretty cool. And we have existed in that span of area for 6,000 years. And we know that rough estimate because people were able to carbon date the pottery that they have found all throughout that land. I don't know the process of, because I also think other people can't, that's okay. Yeah. So this so we are the Catawba, and whenever we refer to the CIN, that's specifically with our tribal government part of it. And so their values, I don't know when they created them, are community, leadership, culture, sovereignty, excellence in education, quality healthcare, and overall well-being, which we decided to include those because that also ties into what we want to see with our youth, because they are our future. Some more information. Clarklyn had talked about the significance of clay. So because we are the people of the river, the whole pottery process, clay is super important to us traditionally and still today. Traditionally, it was used for collecting berries, collecting water, food, all of these communal and community activities. And then with contact it was used as a financial resource that the Catawba were able to use to exist and have some kind of standing, financial standing with colonization. And then with later in history with the local university, Winthrop University, they were a huge ally with pottery and recognition and preserving our culture. And then the Catawba Native American Study Center, which is in Lancaster, which is about 30 minutes from the reservation. And the goals are economic security, successful citizenship, so being able to become enrolled members so that they're able to get those tribal membership benefits of resources. And then generations of well-informed, opportunity-seeking individuals. So being able to have pride in being Catawba citizens and also having that sense of confidence and identity. Next slide.
It should be data, go back one.
I can go ahead one.
Oh,
I think it's just.
Oh, they're out of work. Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, so there's a couple bits of data, it's missing a few of them for some reason, I'm not sure why, but I'm not a tech person. So we used some information gathered from when USET came to Catawba Nation in sometime this year. March, yeah, I think March. And we were able to get some information from the participants. I don't remember how exactly many they were able to get information from. But from those statistics, the main concerns for the tribe were the significance of opioid misuse and presence within the community, where 76% of the Catawba community members responded that opioid misuse was the most significant, just in general. And then even further, they responded that the 12 to 17-year-olds and the 18 to 25-year-olds were the most at risk for that issue at 18.92% and 32.88% respectively. Considering that's our future, that's a really big concern that even our, like all of our community recognizes that opioid issues and health related issues are a huge concern. And that's because 50% of our community has known at least one close member. So either auntie, uncle, cousin, nephew, grandfather, father has known someone that has had an overdose. And we were able to do a ghost data specifically with our teen center. So we don't have a school program on the reservation. We have an after school program that also is a summer program. So we do have some area where the kids are able to get some education related stuff and cultural stuff, some sense of community within the reservation, but not quite yet a school setting. And with the healing of the canoe journey, or the healing of the canoe curriculum, they conducted or created a survey specifically for that age group. And with those groups, we were able to interview 19 individuals, and 13 of them reported not feeling safe at school. And half of them reported either having a parent that was verbally abusive or aggressive, had parents separated or divorced, and or lived with a person that had a drug or alcohol issue. Another 50% of them also experienced harassment about their race, ethnic origin, their weight, and or received unwanted sexual attention. So that's not safety in the surrounding community, not safety in the schools, and for some, not even safety in their homes. So for a lot of them, or about half of them, that after school program is potentially the only place where they get any perceived safety. With not included on either of them, I think it was about 15 of them reported that culture and community connection was either very important to them or extremely important to them. So we do have a significant portion of them who do have that sense of importance of having that identity as a protective factor. Next slide, please. So, the Catawba. So with that information collected and just the general national statistics within the issues of drug misuse, alcohol misuse, general health issues that disproportionately affect Native communities, the Catawba Nation recognized a need for the education, prevention, and support for these youth so that we can protect them into being successful and healthy and safe individuals as they grow up. And so we are part of that initiative. Next slide.
Here I am.
I'm on the tech first. But on the third side, it's water.
But Cynthia will be with us, she is currently finishing up her master's program, and so she finishes next Sunday, so we can all wish her good luck. And hopefully next time we present, she'll be with us and she can give her spiel, so.
Previous in our initiative was the RISE program, so within the after school summer program, we implemented a positive reinforcement strategy. So focusing on those positive behaviors, no matter how small, no matter how large, but giving them that constant positive affirmation of the things that they're doing right. Like, thank you for thank you for helping this person that you don't usually hang out with whenever they got hurt. That's really nice of you. Thank you. Or thank you for playing with this person who was really sad and lonely and was just off by themselves, but you sought them out and you were like, hey, looks like you need a friend. Let's go play whatever. Or thank you for cleaning up this area that you weren't even a part of, but you saw it was a mess and you decided to take it upon yourself to clean it up. Thank you. So that positive encouragement can help reduce the effect, that constant positive encouragement can help reduce those negative outbursts. Because for a lot of the, anyone really, but especially for our younger folks, those disruptive or negative behaviors are often attention seeking in nature. And for many of them, that negative behavior is often the only time that they get any kind of attention. On the other side of that, if they're regarded as bad kids, which given stigmas and discrimination, especially within the schools, they often are. And we've actually heard reports of teachers just passing them through or intentionally thinking less of them as successful students than successful ones just because they're from the reservation and they're just res kids. And if they are deemed as bad kids, even if I do anything good, they're not gonna notice me, they're not gonna care. A case study on that is there is a student that either just graduated or is about to graduate who was a straight A student, 4.0 something plus with the however the AP classes were, 4.0, fantastic student, successful with a couple of extracurriculars, and there was a teacher, I believe, that told her to her face that she wasn't going to amount to anything because she came from the reservation. So even for our most successful performing kids, they're still deemed as troublesome or insignificant. So that positive behavioral management style helps even our lower performing ones or our middle performing ones, which often get overlooked by the overshadowers or the undershadowers. And so giving all of them that constant positive affirmation can help them when they're often bereft with a lot of positive interaction. And with that happened, we started that about 2 years ago, and we have started this year working on healing of the play.
Yeah, so the stuff that Ashley was talking about, these kids that are kind of labeled, this isn't new. There's a guy right now, he just got elected to our executive committee, and I can use this name because he talks about it himself, but Connie Wade, when he was in the 9th grade, a teacher looked at him and said, "You're one of those Wade boys, right?" He's yeah. And she was like, oh, I know, I'll have trouble out of you. And he was like, excuse my language, but he was like, you bet your ass you will. And he made it his job, his sole purpose to tell her every day that he was gonna be better than any other Reds kid that he'd ever seen. And so this isn't something new, because our school, we actually used to have to pay for our kids to go to school in York. We were in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to the school. We actually just paid that off 4 years ago, I think. And now, we lost land because we had to sell land, because at that time we didn't have our casino, and so we weren't, financially able to do this. So we sold land to be able to pay the city back for, sending our kids to a public school, so that's nothing new. I want everybody to realize that this is something that is ongoing, and that's why personally my goal is to get a school for our kids. It's much needed. Our kids love their culture and their heritage, and I want them to be able to learn about it in school. So we started this summer, the Healing of the Clay, which is connecting lives of ancestors and youth. It's a cultural based curriculum based around suicide, substance misuse. So we talk about tons of things, suicide, methamphetamines, fentanyl, opiates, over-the-counter medicines, prescription drug misuse, different things like that. So next slide. Healing of the Clay. I sent you a different one that were. I think I sent you the old one.
Yeah, if you'd like to pause and send it to me quicker, I can get the other one up.
And user.
Do you have any questions so far, or anything? Got anything that we've done about Catawba?
From somebody who knows some things about clay, but not all, of course, of what you guys are doing. Can you explain a little bit the process of whether it's collecting clay or processing clay or firing clay or anything that would help you illustrate how complex really it can be?
Yeah, right. So Catawba has what we call clay holes, and there are some on the reservation, but there's not a ton identified. And so what we do is we go out and we dig down in the ground, obviously, and we collect clay in a literal hole that's like 8 foot deep. And you get down there, and it's probably, I think, 2 or 3 people can get in that at the same time. And you dig it and you toss it up. And then what we do is you put that clay, those clay clumps, into water, wait for it to absorb and kind of mix, and we mix it. And then what we do, there are different techniques depending on what family you come from in Catawba. The Georges, I know, which is my relatives, they lay it out on a pillowcase after they've strained it through a sunscreen, and you leave it out for like 3 or 4 days, check it every day, and you move it around, and obviously all the water drips out, and then you're left with clay that you can mold. So then after that, you mold your piece. We use a coil method. At Catawba, there are some families who do it differently, and then they let it dry, then you scrape it. We use all different types of river rocks because obviously we're on the river. That was something easily accessible to us. We use river rocks, we use spoons, we use deer antlers, we use broken shells, tons of different things. And then what's unique about Catawba is that we fire our pottery in a earthbound fire. So it's outside, it's not a kiln, anything like that. We put them in the oven till I think 200 degrees, take them out, which I don't know the right word for it, but once they're like set, I'm gonna say, you bring them out and you take them to the fire, and the fire is what gives our pottery its markings, depending on the wood that we use. Oak, poplar, pine, different things they burn different on the pottery. So if you ever look at Catawba pottery and you see that there are some black markings, some like reddish markings, some tan markings, that's all because of the wood that we use. And sometimes we'll stack different woods. So it'll be poplar, and then it'll be hickory, and then it'll be pine, and it burns different on the pottery. So that's what makes Catawba pottery unique from other pottery around. Yeah, does that help? Yeah.
And so with each of those steps, we relate it to a different part of refining oneself. So when you're first harvested, there's a lot to go. Then as you grow, you might get some imperfections, you might need to be refined, and then you can become a museum potter or museum worthy piece of pottery.
Yeah, and something that I like to stress with our kids when I talk about the pottery process and what it looks like in everyday life is that you're refined and then you're molded into a different, into a piece of pottery. Then you're let to harden, and then after that, you go into the fire. And one thing about Catawba pottery is it can bust in the fire and it can crumble. And that doesn't mean that your life is over. There were imperfections clearly in you yourself when you went under pressure. When you go into that fire, you can crack and you can crumble, but all I have to do is put you back in the water and have to refine you again, mold you again, and then you go back into the fire. So that can happen as many times as we need. Those hardships and those quote unquote failures, they don't make you as a person. You can still come out later, a beautiful piece of pottery. And it's what you do from those hardships and those mistakes and those failures that really makes you that ideal Catawba, that, museum piece of pottery. So that's something that I stress with the kids, because let me tell you, I'm the first to make a mistake. And I don't want the kids to think that that one mistake defines me, because those kids know me for more than my mistakes. They know my mistakes, trust me, but they also know that what I've done past those mistakes. And so I really think that it's that relationship building with those kids to get them to understand and realize you're not just defined by your mistakes. So yeah. Are we ready, maybe? Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious to know, what age range is the after school program that you guys have, the summer program?
Yeah, so we do two programs, the RISE that Ashley talked about, and then the healing of the clay. So our RISE program is at our Sioux Rock location, which is elementary age, so K through 5. And then our HOC curriculum, or healing of the clay curriculum, is at our teen center, so 8th through 12th grade.
We also have a Head Start program that is like 4 weeks, I think, to 4 years old.
Yeah, but we currently don't put anything, we don't implement anything in that location yet. But we are planning on refining and changing this curriculum later to the elementary site and then to the Head Start eventually. So yeah, so healing of the clay, a little background, we visited the Squamish tribe, like I told you guys. We implemented the pilot program this year, so our first year, and we've hit some bumps. But as every program would. So the intent of the healing of the clay is to provide the Catawba youth with an opportunity to develop skills to help them make positive choices while avoiding hazards of drugs, tobacco, and alcohol. We utilize Catawba traditions, practices, beliefs, values, stories, and teachings while utilizing the tribe's most valuable resources, the elders, the youth, leaders, and other tribal members. So we actually have speakers come in and talk about, alcohol misuse. We had a recovering alcoholic come in and talk to our kids about how pottery and how clay saved him from that dark path, and how he was able to come back to our tribe, and he serves our tribe now as a peer support specialist. And we have, other Catawba elders. We have our tribal police just came in and talked to our kids about prescription drugs, because that's something that they're seeing right now, is that there's, prescription drugs are being misused. And a lot of our kids, they don't realize that, just because my brother has Adderall doesn't mean I shouldn't take it, So we try to teach these kids, and tomorrow we one of our private police is gonna talk about methamphetamines, and I'm sure he's got it under control, but that's one I wanna be there for, but I hate I missed it, so, next slide. So HOC topics are drugs and alcohol misuse and risk, community importance and having a positive support system, the 4 directions and the cultural significance of that, mental health, physical health, emotional and spiritual, self-perception and the significance of Catawba identity, which is very important to our kids. They love being Catawba, and our kids are proud of that. Especially right now, we want them to be able to take that into the schools, since they are in public schools, and since we don't have the best relationship, we want to make sure that the other kids around the community know what our heritage is and who we are. And so we have our kids, they're the ones that go and they take that out, because I'm not with other kids in the community, but I can teach our kids about their heritage and their culture, and they can share that knowledge. Goal setting and how to create goals, overcoming obstacles. And this summer, we don't touch on suicide and depression, but that is 2 of the sections that are in HOC that we will touch on later on. Next slide. And then personally, my favorite part of the summer is the honoring ceremony. This is an end of summer event that awards the participants of their time and participation in HOC. And this year we're doing a community cookout to celebrate our kids, but we're also sending our kids on a weekend trip to a local camp called Camp Cherokee. And they get to spend all weekend there. They get to do fun things like rock climbing, canopy tours, swimming, just kids being kids that unfortunately our kids were not able to experience a lot of that this year due to financial reasons. We didn't get to take them on a ton of field trips and things, so we really are applauding them for this weekend that we take them on this trip. And they received certificates and superlatives at a honoring ceremony that we're going to do to acknowledge their achievements over the summer. So next slide. So like I talked about challenges. Time has been a factor because originally we thought we were going to go into the camp for a full 3 days. We were going to teach curriculum 3 out of 5 days a week. And let's be honest, kids don't want to sit for that long. I'm a teacher. I had a teacher brain when I was coming up with the timeline. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have a ton of like sit and get. If I have any educators in here, you understand sit and get. And that is straight up sitting there and you just taking all the information. And that's just not right for our kids. So we changed it to where we are in teaching for 2 days a week, and then we do a cultural activity on Wednesdays. So our kids do pottery, they do dugout canoes, they do beadwork, anything, dancing, drumming, anything that they want to do that is culturally relevant, cooking. We do that on Wednesdays. And then every other Thursday of the month, we throw out the curriculum, we throw out the cultural activities, and we just have fun with our kids. So we have water days, we have days where we just do team building activities with our kids, anything like that. So time has been a factor, balancing time with facilitators and curriculum while also keeping the participants' attention. So we're implementing brain breaks every 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how mind intensive the topic we're talking about. Sometimes if it's really heavy, we'll go to 15-minute breaks. And then if it's, more relaxed and the kids can interact with us, we do 30-minute breaks. And during those times we walk around, so we get some physical activity in. We'll do other team building activities, things like that. And then of course, as always, as a good parent should, they have concerns about talking with the participants about suicide, drugs, and alcohol misuse and the identity. So Ashley has taken it upon herself to, call each individual parent and say, look, we're not talking to them and tell them this is what you should do. We're telling them these are the things that can happen if you do these activities. This is why you shouldn't do this. And I think that was a misconception that we kind of didn't help stop, because we didn't include the parents this year in what was going on in building this curriculum, nor did we include the childcare staff. So we recognized that, and next summer we're planning on having a parent advisory committee that's going to come in, and they're going to help us with making the curriculum and the schedule and things like that. And I think that will take a lot of that weight off of our parents' shoulders, and even the childcare staff. They care just as much about these kids. Once again, educators will know we are with these kids for, 8 to 10 hours a day. We're with these kids a lot more than their parents are, and we care about them, just as much as their parents, because they're our babies too, and so I think that'll ease the minds of a lot of people. And of course, we're gonna celebrate our triumphs, and that's working directly with the childcare staff and scheduling weekly groups and store operations, which is something that we didn't talk about, but it's pretty cool. So the RISE program has Solanka days, which in Catawba means stand up, and then Pawong days, which means sit down in Catawba. And we pass out Solanka days and Pawong days to our kids that are doing good. They get Solanka days, helping a friend, playing with a friend, cleaning up. You get a Solanka day, and those are worth 50 points. Sometimes more if you do something bigger. And then Pawong days, which are things that they don't deduct points, they pause their points essentially, or pause their spending at the store. And in the store, they get clothes, they get accessories, they get LED light strips that go around the rooms. If any of you guys know teenagers, they have those LED light strips, Bluetooth speakers. We once got this big stand-up speaker that was like this big and had a tripod stand and tripods and light, what are the little like selfie light things. So kids get to shop in there. So of course store operations, and then we establish open lines of communication between childcare facilities about addressing program strengths and areas of improvement, and increased youth engagement and positive responses and behaviors. So we have had an increased number of youth engagement. They come because they love this curriculum. They find it amazing that they get to learn about, King Hagler, which is a chief of ours. They get to learn about pottery with our current chief, or he's not, he is current, but he's not current. We just elected a new chief on Sunday. So our previous chief, Bill Harris, came in and actually did pottery lessons with our kids. He's a master potter, and he came in and is going to do the whole process with them, molding to firing. And those kids, they eat that up. They're like, Chief's coming today. Oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? And we have elders that we plan on coming in and teach basket work to our kids. I'd love to get some people in to teach the kids how to make ribbon skirts and ribbon shirts for our guys. So that's just some triumphs that we've had. And then next slide. Moving forward, we're adapting the HOC curriculum after this summer and probably next summer as well before we consider this, picture perfect, because you need to teach it 3 or 4 times before it can be picture perfect. But we're gonna address some of the concerns that were brought up this summer, and then we're going to involve the childcare facilities, like I said, and utilizing their skills, adapting further to the elementary site, which is something we're really excited about, to put a cultural curriculum into the elementary site. And then the information is also being used for our home visiting program that supports pregnant teens in the Catawba Indian Nation, and they'll also use this Healing of the Clay curriculum eventually. So, next slide. All right, hello and thank you. Do you guys have any questions for us? I know that was a lot, but yeah.
You mentioned the coil method.
Mm-hmm.
What method is that?
So you get your piece of pottery, or you get your clay, and you pinch off a piece, and you're gonna roll it in your hands just like this, and it's gonna make a long coil. And then you wrap it around the base of your pottery, and you do that 2 or 3 times. You stack it, make the shape. The bowl can go out like this, it can go like this, however you want to shape it, and then you smooth it out. So the base of your piece of pottery is based on holes.
Right. So you fire it into you.
Hmm?
You fire the
Yeah.
clay.
So that's the in ground.
Yeah, that's the very last piece, or the very last part of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got a new chief.
Yes, we just elected him on Sunday, early hours. I was actually on the election committee when we counted votes from 7 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. So, yeah.
And what's his name?
His name is Brian Harris.
Brian Harris.
Yes.
You guys use the wheels also?
No, we don't use a wheel. We use a 12-inch by 12-inch square of wood, plywood, and that's what we make our pottery on.
So none of it is automatic at all in displays, which you had mentioned earlier, for the modern techniques, it's all ranging from that 6,000 years old,
Yeah.
at least process.
Yeah, I suck with those, so.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Y'all showed a slide with the different data from, I believe it was in.
can you go back to the data slide? It should have theoretically all of them on it now.
I was curious to know.
It's slide 4.
How many you guys received, responses from?
So we received 19 from the first one. We had a second round that has a little bit more, but we haven't been able to go through. Sources that these, I don't know, like the way I see it, the way we see it. So that, like, maybe it's the way that I sent it.
I think we can download the slides when the resource mode.
I might be able to download them and make them a PDF and we can distribute them out.
Yeah. And if you go on the USET the USET app, if you have it downloaded, there's an attachment at the very bottom. If you click on our scheduled time, it says one attachment. You click on it, you can actually scroll through our presentation, and I
Which that might be.
almost 100% positive it's the new one.
Okay.
So that's what.
And also, I want to give kudos to Ashley. All of the artwork that's on these, Ashley actually drew all of these. So this is our team.
Go back to the end.
The
Slide
first
8.
one we started on the new presentation, so 8. So this is actually our logo from our King Hagler pot. And using all of the traditional aspects designed into this with.
But Ashley drew it too. So that's something I applaud her on every single time. She has great artistic ability. She actually painted a piece for me. I got married last November and she painted, I was holding my wedding jug and she painted it for me. And I love that piece. I hold it so near and dear to my heart. So yeah.
So out of the 19 youth that were a part of the survey, did you guys have to get approval from the parents for them to respond? Or what was that process like?
Basically told them, hey, we're coming in to do this just to see what kind of strengths they have, what kind of challenges that they're facing. And they were.
Yeah. And then we'll do a post survey at the end of this summer. And we'll get the same, it'll be the same set of questions. Yes. It'll be the same set of questions and then it'll, see their growth. Obviously this is summer curriculum, so are they gonna see a growth from are you safe in school to are you safe in school? No, maybe not, but their home life, we do a lot dealing with their parents. We talk to their parents pretty often. And so will their home life improve? Yeah, maybe. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing the pre and post changes.
Which even if it doesn't now, then we'll still have this baseline with it being our pilot program to whenever we implement it again next year.
Yeah, this is only a summer curriculum.
Okay.
Eventually, we'd like to put it into the schools, or into like during the school year, during our after school program, but for right now, it's only a summer curriculum.
I always have this question, and I know not economic development, but is this funded through flat revenue or
It is.
is there some great funding? to help you do this?
So this is fully funded by the Native Connections grant. There's
Because you geared it through mental health and behavioral health.
Through the prevention.
for that positive reinforcement and also that awareness to the risks surrounding the area and that strengths and community-based connections.
If you guys have all the costs, just there's like your materials for.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. No, so actually, I have an education background. I graduated from Winthrop with a bachelor's in educational studies. So I'm not even a certified teacher. I can't go into a public school and teach. Actually, does not or does have your licensure?
We applying for my licensure in September or October, or at least by the end of the year. But because we were trained from the Suquamish tribe with the healing of the canoe, that gave us the credentials to adapt and implement it.
Yeah.
You know, from, we're with the Monicans, but what we see from the outside of the car is they're really making great strides. Yeah, you really are, you're doing a lot of programs. I understand you got 200 staff now.
Yeah.
Administration. And it's all going really well.
So
Yeah,
might
I'm
be
hoping to keep that.
might be comparatively small, but remain to be right.
We just
We're
compare
mighty.
ourselves a bit because you guys are about 30 years ahead in size.
Okay,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. We appreciate that.
What does outreach look like? And how do you keep with participation and retention for anyone that?
So I currently, my battle is the 18 to 24 range, because with SAMHSA, we go all the way up to 24. That's our young adult age. And so something that I'm battling with right now is that's an age group in our tribe that's very, very, very disconnected. They don't have a lot of trust in our tribe due to other things that have gone on. And so right now I'm trying to pull together some events, like taking that group to Top Golf or having cooking classes or things like that. So I'm in the beginning stages of putting that together. But as far as outreach with the younger age group, we really, right now, we stay within our childcare programs because they're easy to reach. You know, they're there every day. But I'd love to see us get outside of that. And this is a very new, our whole department is less than 2 years old. So, we are very new and we figured, you know, a good place to start would be to the kids that come every day. So eventually we'll get out and do that outreach, but for right now, our outreach that I'm working on is that 18 to 24 range.
You mentioned, all the grades except 6 and 7.
So 6 and 7 are at the teen center, yeah. So it's K through 5 and then 6 through 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might have missed.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was like. You really co-define activities in the 18 and 24-year-olds?
Yes, yes. Right. And that, you know, it's hard because they don't want to give up a day during their weekend. I mean, I fall in that group and I'm like, man, I don't really have to do a Saturday event. So that's why we're trying to, but then we struggle because we can't go after hours, especially if I'm an hourly employee, might not be able to get overtime a lot. So we're trying, really hard that's why I say I'm in the beginning stages of that because it's a hard thing to do. Nobody wants to give up their Saturdays or their Friday nights. And personally, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock on Tuesday, so I can't, have an event on Tuesday. So that's what we're struggling with right now, is finding a good time.
Also, with that 18 to 24-year-old group, they are very disconnected from the tribe anyway. So even just trying to be like, hey, come do this with Catawba,
They're like,
thank you.
yeah.
We did send out self-care kits.
Yes.
To them. I think we did a decent amount of.
Yeah, we had 35 self-care kits go out, to 18 to 24. So that was my first, attempt at outreach. And I think 35 was a bigger number than I was expecting. And I think we would have had more had I been able to send the self-care kits because we have tribal citizens in Germany and Utah, so all over, but I wasn't able to send out the self-care kits. And we had roughly 15 call and say, hey, can you send it to me? And unfortunately, my answer was no.
I was just gonna encourage you to, you know, continue and hopefully your funding and everything will continue because eventually these 10-year-olds are gonna be those 18-year-olds.
Yep.
So just keep at it.
Yeah.
What was it about self-care kits? Like personal care?
So we did, sage, cedar, sweetgrass. Candles. A self-care like book. Oh god, I can't even remember. It was like a list, oh, a sound machine. A couple other things. I can send you.
Show this.
No, we did work really hard to try and get everything to be from a tribally owned, company, but that's not all, I mean, I can't always do that, especially with funding, so did some things come from Amazon? Maybe. But, yeah. Yes, and the pay it forward activity, so we did cards, and I wrote a nice letter to them, you are strong, you are beautiful, you are empowered, you are indigenous. And then I gave direction, you know, hey, pass this same positive affirmation on to someone else that you know. Because we did, oh, and a fidget toy, because I was trying to think, we did the 5 cent, 6 cent. Yeah, so smell, touch, taste. I don't know what they were. Smell, touch, taste, smell. Here was the syrup, the sound machine. I don't know, the site. We did, yes, long time ago. I don't remember. But that was one thing that I did successfully, so yeah.
I'm curious to know how, because that sounds like a very engaging, like self-care kit, even just like hear you speak about it, hear how the numbers up sharing about it, if that's something that everyone would enjoy receiving, and I think for that age range, connecting them to something is more so like giving them something first and then allowing them to connect individually and then
Yes.
bringing them together as a community. So I'm curious to know, again, back to outreach, what methods you guys did to promote that for them to reach out to you and say, hey, we want one.
Yeah, so I developed postcards, and I went to our tribal enrollment, and I was like, give me every tribal citizen from 18 to 24. And after that, I went through and seriously hand wrote everybody's postcard, and I sent them out. So we sent them out to their house. They had no choice but for it to come. And if they called, you know, we would do our best to. And the problem is they had to come to the Longhouse to get it. So those ones that were in Utah, they weren't necessarily able to. But technically, it's still open, and I still have more stuff. So had they come to vote, they could have called and said, hey, I'm coming, but you know, that's not
Maybe
always the case.
that's a simpler way to track and re-engagement for like future activities.
And I think that's my plan, is to send out at least to the local ones, if we're gonna do a top golf event, or if we're gonna do a cooking class or anything like that. I think I want to send it out in postcards. Yeah, any more questions? I'm not sure where we're going.
We would, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming. All right, awesome, everybody. We're gonna be breaking for lunch now.